Hi, my name is Bernie Ranieri. I am a certified international sleep consultant. I'm also a mom of two under two. I have a 2-year-old and a 7-month-old. Snuggle and Sleep is my holistic sleep consulting company. We target Catholic moms because we tend to have large families and we're always sleep deprived. So I use holistic methods to help your baby sleep better, which means that you will sleep better. So jumping in, this is what we're going to be talking about tonight, really focusing on the 5 S's. These are a really great way to get your baby to sleep better, whether you really believe in crunchy sleeping, even like co-sleeping, or if you're more keen towards separate sleeping, even if you're putting your newborn in a crib or a co-sleeper or a bassinet. And just talking about the different types there. If you are co-sleeping, make sure you've read up on the Safe 7. That's just a few guidelines so that you're co-sleeping safely, so that your baby is not ending up in one of those horrible stories. So there's just like a lot of opinions around co-sleeping for a newborn. So I'm not going to dive into that. That's something you can do your research on. I think honestly, at every point, some mom has brought their baby into their bed. And I have, like, even as a sleep consultant and everything, brought my babies into the bed. Sometimes with newborns, they just really need to be super, super close to you. So I'm going to be giving you a lot of tools on how to get your newborn to feel comfortable outside of the womb, to recreate the womb so that they feel comfortable. They've been in you for 9 months, closer to 10 months, and they really are just kind of shocked being out in the world. It's a lot of adjustment. So expecting them to just lie in their crib, in a separate room in a nursery is super unrealistic. So we're going to do a lot of things that help your newborn feel comfortable in this world that remind them of the other world, your womb that they were in before. So something that I personally really love, 2 options that I love for, cribs and stuff like that, is the co-sleeper. That's the one that comes up against the bed and then it attaches under the bed and you can pull the side down. So that way you're super close to your baby is super close to you. You can touch them overnight. A lot of newborns really love to be able to feel you, your hand, your touch, to smell you. That really helps with regulations as well, helping their heart, their breath. And it also helps the mom and her hormones regulate as well. So being close to your newborn is really important. The co-sleeper is a really nice medium between, you're not co-sleeping completely in the bed, so you don't have to worry about your husband and the blankets and all that stuff. But you don't have to have your baby across the room and constantly be getting up to go get them because they're right next to you. So it basically joins the crib to your bed. And that's a really happy medium. The other thing that I love is sometimes called a Moses basket or a travel bassinet. Those ones are kind of like a basket and they go in the bed either between mom and the wall or between mom and dad if you have like a king size bed or even bigger. They do take a little bit of room, but again, it's just like a little basket that goes next to you so you can touch your baby overnight. They're super close to you. They're getting regulated. You're kind of co-sleeping, but again, they have a separate space. So you don't have to worry about a lot of the things that come with co-sleeping. A lot of anxiety I noticed for new moms with co-sleeping. They've read so much online and everything. And naturally, I think it's good to be a little bit fearful and to be aware of what can happen so that you do it safely if you do choose to do it. But if that anxiety is keeping you awake and then you're just awake with your newborn all night, it's good to have another option instead of co-sleeping, something that's going to help your baby be comfortable. So once you've chosen your sleep space for your baby, something safe, something cozy, something where they're close to you, that is the key. Then you can use the 5 S's to help your newborn sleep better. The first S is swaddling. And right here, I even have, I know I'm in the video still, so I have this swaddle. This is my favorite swaddle. I will show you quickly how this works. So the 5 S's are from Dr. Harvey Karp. He wrote the book, The Happiest Baby on the Block, and also The Happiest Toddler. But all of these 5 S's come out of The Happiest Baby on the Block. And he really wrote about how newborns are in their 4th trimester, how you need to recreate the womb for them to be comfortable. And since in the womb, it's kind of, they can move, but it's not like the world. They can't just flail around. They can suck their thumbs. They can move around a little bit, but the womb is very cozy. So to create that cozy environment, swaddling really helps your baby feel snug and warm. So this swaddle, I love it because it's super easy to use. So it has Velcro on the inside, so you don't have to worry about like blankets and stuff like that. And you put your baby's arms together, and then you wrap one side, and you wrap the other. And then this one you can use, you don't have to use it, so make sure everybody can see. And then this comes up between their legs. That's kind of just like extra security. It's not necessary. And then the cherry on top, you zip them up. And so now you have a little cocoon. Now, you can use other kinds of swaddles. You can use a muslin blanket or a different kind of blanket. The problem that I find with a lot of just swaddling yourself or a lot of other swaddles that are not super secure is that your baby can still do a lot of movement and they tend to just flail out of their swaddles. So using this one, and I will send you the link afterwards, it's called Happiest Baby, after his happiest baby on the block, or they're also called the Sleepy Swaddles. Sleepy is Sleepea, Sleepy Swaddles. It's all about keeping those arms secure and snug and down. You'll also notice that if you're rocking your baby, your newborn, so between 0 to 12 weeks, and they're super upset and, they're like flailing everywhere and stuff, if you just like hold their arms down, then they're able to fall asleep. So the swaddle is doing that for you, so it's less work for you. The next thing is sucking. Now, some babies really hate the pacifier to start with. It's really important to experiment with different kinds of pacifiers if you want your baby to take a pacifier, especially if they're a baby that really loves to suck. So this one here, this is the MAM pacifier, and it's that flat one. It's the only one that my girls would take, both of them. Now, other babies will only take the super round one, which is usually going to be the A-vent, or the Tommy Teepee one is a different one. So experiment around a little bit, try a few different kinds. Don't just look at different brands, look at different shapes, like the flat shape. It's probably going to also depend on your nipple shape. So if you have like very soft breast tissue, you might find that your baby likes the flatter one. If you're more firm, you might find the baby likes the really round one. If your baby takes a bottle as well, that's also going to play into how they take a pacifier or a dummy. It's not absolutely essential for them to take a dummy, obviously, or a pacifier. You can soothe them with the breast, obviously. That's going to be the number one way you're going to soothe your baby, your newborn. And if you're not able to breastfeed, then you're going to have the bottle. You're going to have either, pumped milk or formula for your baby. So those are also good ways to soothe. But we're talking about not necessarily feeding your baby to sleep. I feel like that's kind of the obvious answer with newborns, is that you're going to try to feed them to sleep. And if you can do that, great. But if you're listening to this class and you're looking for more ways to get your baby to sleep and you don't want to always have to feed your baby to sleep, then these are some other ways. And also, some babies don't like being fed to sleep. They will feed and then just be awake at the end of it, no matter how tired they are. Feeding kind of ends up stimulating them. So if your baby is one of those babies, then these are 5 things that you can use together to help your baby fall asleep. The nice thing about these is they don't change. They're 5 things, and they're the 5 S's, and they stay the same. So whether you're at home, whether you're out, whether you're at someone else's house, those 5 S's, you can do them. You might have to adapt them a little bit, but you can still do them. You can still swaddle your baby, and you can still give them something to suck on, whether that's your breast or the bottle or a pacifier or even your finger. So sucking is really important because it activates their nervous system and helps them calm down, and it helps them fall asleep like that. The third S is going to be side or stomach settling. Now, stomach settling is a little trickier because once they're on their stomach and then you need to get them to their back, sometimes it can be harder to keep them asleep, whereas side settling is pretty much just as effective as stomach settling, and it also activates their nervous system and helps them calm down. So if you're trying to, you've read about safe sleep and putting your baby to sleep on their back, and you're constantly trying to get them to sleep on their back, a lot of babies, they don't calm down when you put them on their back. So if you're putting your baby in the crib on their back, even if you put them to sleep and then you're trying to put them down on their back, they probably will wake up. Now, you might have a great sleeper. Probably not listening to this masterclass if you have a great sleeper. So the trick is to settle them on their side. So you can have, one hand on their tummy and one hand on their back, but you want to be them on their side, or if not on their tummy, then you're going to slowly shift them to their back. So you do want them to stay asleep on their back when you leave the room. You don't want to leave them on their tummy, especially if they're swaddled. Then they have no way to flip themselves at that age. So just remember that when, you're using the stroller, even, you're trying to get them to sleep when you're walking, you're, again, at someone else's house. This is something that you can pretty much do anyway. You can always, even if they're in your arms, you can put them on their stomach on your arm or on their side. And that will help them also relax. And then the 4th S is going to be shushing. This is a pretty instinctive one, but what's not instinctive is how loud you can do it. So a fun fact about newborns is they can only keep in mind 2 things at once. So for example, if your baby is crying, which is pretty normal if they're overtired, if you are shushing them, that's one thing. And then the second thing could be crying. So then you need to do another thing. So then we'll bring that in a second. We'll talk about padding. So if you can do 2 other things that overtakes your newborn's mind, basically. They have to stop crying because a newborn can't focus on 3 things at once. They can only focus on 2 things. So you want your shushing to be quite loud. You want your shushing to be louder than they're crying, which is for most newborns quite loud because they get quite screamy. So another tool that you can use is white noise. This little white noise machine that I have. This is my portable white noise machine. It's well loved, as you can see. So that's going to be a good thing to have in the background, and that's going to be something that you want to have throughout their whole sleep. Now, the white noise, you don't want to be super loud. You want that to be between 65 to 70 decibels. And that's going to be continuous throughout their naps and throughout overnight. And you just want that to be background noise. And basically that also reminds your newborn of the womb, because if you go onto YouTube and you watch any of those videos of what did it sound like when my baby was in the womb, what did they hear? And you'll be amazed at how loud it is for the newborn, for the baby before they're born in the womb, for what they can hear in the outside world, because it's really quite loud. So when you're taking your baby into a quiet room and everybody's doing the shh, baby's sleeping, and everybody's being really quiet, that's actually very disturbing for them. And it's not easy for them to fall asleep or stay asleep. Rather, it's much easier for them to fall asleep and stay asleep when there's white noise. Obviously, you could do things like put them to sleep in a room with a bunch of people talking, but the problem with that is that when everybody leaves and they're not talking anymore, your baby's probably going to wake up because everything's different. So that's why we really recommend the white noise machines, because they're just so consistent. So you can have it going for the whole of their sleep overnight. It also becomes a really good sleep association. That means that when your baby hears the white noise, then they know, oh, it's time to go to sleep. So we'll get into that in a minute, but and just share a little bit about associations and stuff. But shushing is also something you can do just with your mouth. So you can have the white noise going, but you want to do a really loud, consistent shh through your newborn, past their ear. So if you're holding a newborn, in your arm and they're crying, instead of, getting frantic and getting stressed, you're going to swaddle them. You're going to put them on their side in your arm, and then you're going to do the shushing. And the ear is going to be about here, and you're going to do a very loud shh across them. And that is going to be distracting enough that it's going to calm them down. And then that noise is going to keep calming them because it's repetitive and it's consistent. And then eventually you can stop shushing and you can just leave the white noise when they're not crying anymore. But a very loud shush. And as I said, it's very instinctive to shush your baby. But I think as moms, we tend to, especially as postpartum moms, in those first few weeks, we tend to just jump from things because we're like, that's not working, let's try something else. But you've got to stay consistent. And if you know that it works, like I'm telling you it's going to work, then you will know in that moment, I'm just going to keep doing this until it works. And it will be a few minutes and then they'll calm down. And then the 5th S is going to be swaying. So this can be like rocking, patting, walking around, so many different types of swaying, right? So it can be in your arms. It can be like, a back and forth. It could be a rocking chair. But if we're talking about, getting your newborn to sleep in a bassinet, maybe for a nap when you're not going to be even near them, the swaying is most likely going to happen in the crib. And how we're going to do that is with a gentle, firm bum pat. So I'm going to talk you through a method. I'm going to jump off the presentation in a second and give myself the whole screen for a method that we call shush pat. But basically the swaying, again, it's going to be motion. So it's going to be taking them for a stroller walk is going to help, taking them in the car. If they don't hate the car, some newborns do hate the car, but motion, rocking, patting, all of those things are also going to regulate their nervous system and calm them down and help them fall asleep. So to recap the 5 S's, we've got the swaddling, the sucking, the shushing, the side or stomach settling, and the swaying. And then we bring all of those together. And if we use them all at the same time, your newborn will fall asleep. And just a little side note here. So I've been a sleep consultant for over 3 years now. And I have never had a newborn not fall asleep when I use this sleep method. And I've helped a lot of newborns. So I've obviously used it on my own babies. I have 2 children, but I don't like to use that as an example because every baby's different, every family's different. And just saying as a mom, like, hey, this helped my baby fall asleep that doesn't mean it's a proven effective method. When I tell you that hundreds of thousands of babies across the globe have used this method to fall asleep and thousands of sleep consultants are using it to help newborns fall asleep, then you know that it's proven. And they've done the science to prove that there's reasons why these things work. They're not, the magic trick of hang an egg in their room or put rice cereal in their bottle when they're 6 weeks old, which is actually dangerous. We're not giving you a magic trick. We're giving you a bunch of tools that are going to regulate your baby's nervous system and are going to help them fall asleep. And that's why it's so effective. And then just to jump across the board a little bit. So there are some really common sleep disruptors, and I don't want you to be their mom, trying to force your baby to fall asleep if there's an underlying cause for why they're not sleeping. So if you're noticed you have a particularly bad sleeper and nothing I'm telling you is working, nothing you're reading is working, and you're just getting those alarm bells, it's always good to check in with your pediatrician. It's always good to do some research, maybe even find a holistic practitioner who can help you with some of the root causes. I think going to the pediatrician is going to be a great first step. If you have a pediatrician who's immediately jumping to medication, it'll be very helpful to go find a holistic practitioner who can help you find the root causes. I know it can be super overwhelming in those first few weeks when you're like, does my baby have a tie? Do they have gas? Do they have reflux? Do they have colic? Like, do they have a fever? Like, what is happening here? And then to go find the right practitioner can be just extremely confusing. So the pediatrician is a great first stop. And then if you're finding they're not giving you good whole body holistic answers, then you can start looking for other things. And there's so many recommendations across the board. You've got chiropractors, you've got infant massage, you've got just holistic wellness practitioners who are going to help you find just all these different things. You've got reflexologists, you've got so many practitioners out there, which is why I don't want to overwhelm you. But some of the super common ones are going to be gassiness. You're probably going to see a lot of burping and farting after a while, and then you're going to do the bicycle legs, and you're going to be Googling and getting all that gas out and doing the massages and the tummy rubs and stuff like that. But if your newborn is screaming and scrunching their legs when they're trying to fall asleep, they're probably gassy. And so it would be more helpful to stop trying to put them to sleep and deal with the gassiness. And then once the gassiness is gone, to put them to sleep. Because if you're just trying to put them to sleep and they're screaming in pain, gas is extremely painful. If you've never had gas, I can tell you firsthand, trapped gas is extremely painful. So you want to get rid of that gas before you're trying to put your baby to sleep, because you cannot force a baby to sleep. You have to work with their body. You can't just make them fall asleep. There's no magic pill. We're not going to drug them out or something. So if you want to work with their body, you need to make sure they're not in pain. Another really common one is reflux. You will see, things out there like wedges and the bassinet, so they're sleeping upright. These are a big no-no. We don't want to put things in the crib with your baby. Not good. So, but I don't want to go into that right now. But for reflux, there are a lot of underlying conditions for why your baby has reflux, if they do have reflux. And I would highly suggest consulting with a reflux specialist to get to the root causes. Some of them can be dietary, could be allergies. I'm not a reflux specialist, but I can refer you to a reflux specialist if your baby has reflux. You can start with medication. And then I think if the medication is, helping your baby, that can be a good sign of, okay, they do have reflux. Now let's find the root cause if you're too overwhelmed to go start with holistic help for reflux. But reflux, again, is extremely painful. So if your baby is spitting up a lot and you're seeing those signs for either, normal reflux or silent reflux, definitely deal with that before trying to force them to fall asleep, because they're just going to be uncomfortable, and then they're going to go overtired and you're going to get really frustrated. Obviously, feeding difficulties, those are going to be, quite obvious for most moms, but also for first-time moms, they're not often very obvious at all. I had a lot of trouble with my firstborn nursing her, and unless you have a really good community of other moms around you and a support circle of people who are telling you what normal good feeding looks like, you might not know. But if you're getting any of those alarm bells of my baby's not sucking well, she's not sucking for a long time, and newborn on average is going to feed for 45 minutes. So if you're not seeing, she's feeding for a couple of seconds and then coming off uncomfortable and then going back on for a couple of seconds and coming off, that kind of sign. Or if they're taking a really, really long time to feed, like it takes 2 hours to get a full feed. These are signs that maybe something is off with the feeding and you would want to consult with a lactation specialist. And anytime you need a specialist, you can reach out to me. I do have a great network of Catholic practitioners. And even if I don't have someone in my network, I can reach out to other people in my network and they can find you someone. So if you're looking for Catholic support, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. You don't have to just go spend hours on Google looking for someone that aligns with your values. Now, colic is a really interesting one because a lot of pediatricians, they will do a lazy diagnosis and say your baby has colic when they're actually overtired. And this is extremely common, and I see this a lot, and a lot of sleep consultants see this too, is when a baby is just crying and crying because they're overtired, and the parents go to the pediatrician and say like, hey, my baby's like crying all the time and I can't get them to sleep. And the pediatrician just says, hey, they have colic. And then it's like, well, what's the answer to colic? What do I do? And there is no answer to colic because they didn't even know what colic is. So there are a few rare cases of true colic, and true colic is crying for 3 hours a day, 3 times a week, for 3 weeks or more. So that's a lot of crying. But it means that the crying has no actual reason for it to be colic. So if your baby is falling asleep easily and staying asleep, and then they're just crying and crying in between, okay, they have colic because they're getting the sleep that they need and they're getting the feeds that they need. But a lot of babies will be gassy or refluxy or not feeding well or overtired, and then you're getting told, hey, they have colic. And honestly, that's a lazy diagnosis. And this is not to bash pediatricians or anything like that, because I think they do such a wonderful job and they're so overwhelmed. And they don't even have all the answers themselves. Like, they've done a lot of study, but they don't know everything. So when you have a mom coming to them and, they're showing some signs of their baby crying, the pediatrician might just say, hey, they sound like they have colic. And, that's its own thing. So definitely try to get your baby to sleep more before giving up and saying they have colic, because colic is extremely rare. True colic is extremely rare. So if your baby is just crying a lot and not sleeping, it can be overtiredness, and then that puts them into this vicious cycle of more overtiredness. So the less your baby sleeps, the less your baby sleeps, which is not the funnest thing to hear. It would be really nice if your baby had poor sleep and then that created good sleep because they were like super tired, and you think that would make sense, but no. The less sleep they have, the more fractious they get, and the more dysregulated their nervous system gets, and then it's harder for them to fall asleep. So you really have to go really hard just getting them to sleep, and then you can get over the hump of overtiredness. And then obviously the last sleep disruptor is going to be sickness. So basically any of the things on those lists, or anything else that I haven't put on there, will be a valid reason for your baby not to sleep well. And I just wanted to say, don't stress about it. So newborn sleep is all over the place. It changes day to day. So the 5 S's that I'm giving you and the method we're going to talk about in a second to help your baby fall asleep, that's to help your baby fall asleep when everything is pretty normal. And we're going to use that sort of consistently throughout the 0 to 12-week period. But if any of these things are happening, it's to be expected that your baby is not going to sleep well. So don't stress about it. And it doesn't mean they're not going to sleep well forever, because those are things that can be dealt with and you can get help for them. So the shush pat method is a combination of all of the 5 S's. And this is a method we're going to talk about. So I'm going to jump back onto over here and chat about how to use the shush pat method. So of course, you're going to be doing your swaddling, you're going to have your white noise, you're going to have all of that stuff. And then you're going to lay your baby on their side. Move my camera a little bit. So you're going to lay your baby on their side in the bassinet, and you're going to have one hand on the stomach and you're going to have one hand on their bum. And now you're going to be jiggling their bum with a firm pat so that you can see their head jiggle a little bit. So not, a violent rock, but it needs to be firm enough that the bum pat is going through their body. If you're just doing a pat and nothing, their body is not moving, you're not going to be regulating their nervous system at all. It's basically going to be useless. So you want to be doing a very firm bum pat until you see that jiggle through the body, and that's going to be an actual rock that calms them down. At the same time as doing that rock and having them on their side, if they're really upset and crying and they're not calming down, you can also hold the pacifier in their mouth, and that gives them the sucking. If they hate the pacifier, or you're more just trying to put them to sleep and they're not super upset, then you don't have to worry about the sucking element. And then you're going to do a very loud shush, and again past their ear. And it's literally the shush pat method. So you're going to be shushing past their ear and you're going to be patting. Now, a really stubborn baby who is very overtired can take 20 minutes to fall asleep doing this method. But once they fall asleep, they will stay asleep. And this is for newborns. So we're talking about under 12 weeks. Or under 16 weeks if your baby stays in that newborn period for a little bit longer. But I have not had a baby who has taken more than 20 minutes to fall asleep with that method. And then a newborn sleep cycle is 45 minutes. So if they do take the full 20 minutes, then you're going to get at least another 25 minutes alone in the bassinet, where you can go take a shower and go use the bathroom and feel like a human, get a cup of coffee for a minute. And as a newborn mom who's struggling, if you're a mom who your baby is only doing contact naps and you're only co-sleeping at night, and had a mom message me the other day and she was like, I haven't taken a shower in 2 weeks. And it's okay to put your baby down, but if you don't know how to get your baby to sleep even for 25 minutes, or happy, lying in the crib or lying on a bed for 25 minutes, then you're going to be stressed out of your mind, and it's going to be that vicious cycle again, where it's just things are not getting better. So to give yourself some respite, even if it takes 20 minutes, even the worst case scenario, it takes 20 minutes to get your baby to fall asleep doing this, know that you have another 25 minutes after that where your baby will stay asleep. And then some newborns will link it through to the next sleep cycle, and you will be getting an hour and a half, because that's 2 segments of 45 minutes. That's not something like you're going to expect, because maybe your baby only does 1 sleep cycle, but it's nice to know that there is the option that your baby might do 2 sleep cycles, and that would be an hour and a half. And then for a lot of babies, it does not take 20 minutes for them to fall asleep. It can be closer to 5 or 10 minutes of shush padding until they fall fully asleep, and then stay asleep for the rest of their sleep cycle. I'm going to jump back onto the presentation here. I just had some contact stuff for you guys to screenshot for anybody who's watching this. Sorry for notifications. There's tons of free resources and masterclasses on my website, which also links to my YouTube. So this one's going to be going up tonight, and you can watch them there. You can replay them and everything. And then you can also reach out through my website for a free sleep assessment call. That's where we chat about, what's going on with your baby's sleep. And we talk about how to get your baby to sleep better, and what sleep package you might be looking at, and all that fun stuff. So I'll leave that up for just 2 seconds, and then I'll jump back into talking about some more newborn sleep with you guys before Brigid jumps in and does her segment. Okay, so a little recap on the newborn sleep as well is you can't just put your baby to sleep whenever, right? Like, we've got to have routines and awake windows and all of these things that can be really stressful postpartum. So I don't want to overload you guys tonight. We talked a lot about the 5 S's, and that is the method for getting your baby to sleep. But the one other aspect that kind of pairs really well with that is awake windows, and not so much about routines. And, you're having a newborn. You're not going to be like waking them up at 7 a.m. or getting them to sleep at 7 p.m. Newborns tend to have really late bedtimes. They tend not to fall asleep until like 9 or 10 p.m. And then they're going to wake up, anywhere from like 5 a.m. onwards. And then they're going to be napping consistently throughout the day, on and off, on and off, on and off. And then they're going to have that late bedtime again. And then you'll see that bedtime start to get earlier once they hit that 3 to 4 month mark. A really good awake window for your newborn around, 3 to 6 weeks is going to be 1 hour and 15 minutes, which is super short. And I think a lot of that shocks a lot of people, because when you have your baby, especially if you have other children, there is so much going on that an hour and 15 minutes, or even 1 hour and a half for a slightly longer awake window, passes extremely quickly, especially when you think about a newborn takes usually about 45 minutes, anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes to take a full breastfeed. So basically what's happening is your baby is waking up, you're popping them on the boob, maybe you're doing a couple of things, changing a diaper, and if you look at the time, they're actually ready to go back to sleep. But the nice thing is, if you follow that awake window of somewhere between 1 hour and 15 to 1 hour and 30 minutes, and you go on there and you put your baby back to sleep, they will almost every time fall back asleep very easily, because their body isn't overtired and their nervous system isn't dysregulated already. Now, if you push that and you wait to see those tired signs, which are usually overtired signs, you wait till you see yawning or grumpiness or lots of crying. If you wait for those signs, then your baby is going to be overtired, their nervous system is going to be dysregulated, and it's going to take much, much longer to put them to sleep. Or what's going to happen is they're going to fall asleep again on the boob, and then they're going to start waking up really quickly. So then you're going to get caught in that trap of constant contact naps, even when you don't want them. And short naps, cat naps, 15, 20 minutes, which isn't even a full sleep cycle. So that's another thing that happens as newborns, is we're putting them to sleep, and because we're not putting them to sleep very often, they're taking those really short cat naps, and it's not enough to really even regulate them. It's not enough to even restore them. It's just enough to get them through to the next quick contact nap, and then you just do that all day. So if you really just stay on top of short awake windows for newborns, that's all you need to remember, and then using 5 S's to get your baby to sleep, you will have so many better naps during the day. You will have consistent bassinet naps, crib naps, whatever you're looking for there. And then you can use it again overnight, or you can choose to co-sleep, or whatever method is working for you at night. But at least you know how to get your baby back to sleep. So that is pretty much everything I wanted to chat about with the newborn sleep. There is a lot that goes into newborn sleep. I don't want to overwhelm you. I do have a newborn sleep guide on my website. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to Brigid and let her chat about all of the great stuff that she's going to be sharing as well.
All right. Thank you so much. That was all such great information. So hey there, I'm Brigid, And I have 5 kids, so I totally understand everything that you were just saying. Bernie is like, yeah, so great. And just know too, like every baby's different and you don't have to figure it all out like on night 1. Like you can take your time and you have a lot of time to figure it out. So there's no rush at all. And I promise you it gets better. I remember my daughter, our first, she was not a good sleeper at all unless she was being held. And so we co-slept and like she was in our bed all the time. And I remember people saying like, well, how is she going to sleep whenever she's like 10 years old? And guess what? By age like 2.5, she didn't even want to cuddle with me anymore, which made me even more sad. And she was in her bed and she's been in her bed, like willingly in her bed. She's 9 years old now. And like, she's a pro sleeper. So even if things are tough right now, your kids are going to sleep eventually. So just know that. Even though it might
Yes,
not.
such a good reminder. Yeah. It's
Even though it might
important.
not
It's not forever.
No, it's not. They are going to eventually fall asleep. I promise. Okay. And so again, I am a board certified health coach. I'm a mom of 5 kids. And I help moms heal their minds and bodies after birth so that they can feel like themselves again, so that they can trust their instincts, so that they can live the peaceful, God willing, sanctifying lives that God has designed for them, right? And so, again, you've just been soaking up all of the sleep wisdom, which is amazing. And sleep is obviously so important. And so you're doing all the things, right? Like you're doing the bedtime routines, the magnesium, the white noise, the supplements, but maybe you're still feeling really exhausted or anxious or just not like yourself, right? And so for you specifically, it might not actually be about sleep. It might be about your nervous system is out of whack. Like Bernie was saying about your baby's nervous system, your baby is a direct mirror for you because up until I forget the number of months, your little baby doesn't know how to regulate their own nervous system. So they're relying on your nervous system. And so a lot of times what happens is during birth, a lot of moms' nervous systems get kind of wrecked because of their birth experience. And so I want you to think back to your birth for a second and just think, did you feel safe? Did you feel supported? Or did something happen that maybe left you feeling like completely out of control? Maybe it left you feeling scared or unseen, like any of those things. Just think about it. And so, unfortunately, you are not alone in feeling those things. Up to 50% of women report that their birth was traumatic. And again, it doesn't make you crazy. It doesn't make your body broken or anything like that. All it does is that your body was trying to protect you. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So right now that your body is remembering what your mind is trying to move past. And so when your birth was anything less than that really beautiful, beautiful time, your nervous system never got the message that it's actually okay to rest. So right now you're stuck in that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn phase. And therefore your baby probably is too. Because if your nervous system's out of whack, again, your baby's going to be like that too, no matter what you try to do. That's just the physiology of it. That's just the way it is. And so that can show up as little things that you might not even recognize as like being related to your birth. So for example, if you snap at your kids over tiny little things, right? If loud noises, you just like snap. You're like, I can't, this is triggering. I can't do this. You lay in bed, but you're not able to fall asleep. You might feel like on edge or like just kind of off, even when everything's fine. You might yell at your husband a lot, even though he's like, you know that he's done nothing wrong. Like, you know it. And even when you're yelling, you're like, why am I doing this? He didn't do anything. But you just can't stop yourself. You might even have like time where you had like trigger or panic attacks or flashbacks, right? And so I know for a lot of women that I've supported, those are all things that they are still experiencing. Okay. And so birth trauma is not, it doesn't have to be this like big or dramatic thing that happens. It can be for sure, but it doesn't have to be, again, this like rushing to the OR, codes calling, blood everywhere. It doesn't have to be like that. For a lot of women, it's not like that. And so birth trauma can be anything that made you feel unsafe, out of control, unheard. And again, right now, your body in God's perfect design, literally, is trying to protect you because it doesn't know that it's safe. So right now it's on guard, essentially. It's alert. It's ready for like the next lion that's going to come and like chase you, because that's how your body your cells are literally perceiving it to be like that. And so that protection mode makes it impossible for you to rest, for you to heal, for you to feel joy. Again, you might get like spurts of it, but generally speaking, you're not going to have, this isn't going to be your day-to-day life. This is also why you might forget chunks of your past. And that's literally because your brain is saying, I don't have time to prioritize memory making. I need to prioritize survival. Okay. And so again, it's all connected. Your hormones can't balance when your nervous system is in this survival mode. So if you're gaining weight, if you can't lose weight, if you're losing your hair, like all of these things are showing you that you're in the survival mode. Your digestion slows down, your energy plummets. Again, your patience is gone. And then you're like standing there like, why am I like this? Like, what happened? This all started after I had a baby. Like, why? And then nobody ever thinks, oh, maybe because my birth was really not that good and I didn't feel safe. And then we're in childbearing years for about 20 years or so. And so a lot of us stay stuck in that survival mode for about 20 years. And then we move into perimenopause and think about how horrible perimenopause is when it doesn't have to be like that. Okay. And so again, if that's you right now, again, you didn't do anything wrong. Like literally your body did exactly what it was made to do, which was to make sure that you and your baby survived. And so again, your body was designed to heal though. So right now, even if it is in survival mode, it can switch like that once you have the right tools to keep it to switching. Because going back and forth between that survival, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and the rest and digest is actually how God made us. He made us to have little moments of stress, but then going back into that rest and digest. So again, I don't want to say that we're never, ever going to be stressed ever again. That's not realistic. That's actually not even good for our systems. But your body was made to heal. And again, God made you that way. And so you just have to give your body the right support, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Okay. And so when I work with moms, we start by first helping their body to feel safe again. This is foundational because if your body does not feel safe, it doesn't matter how much you talk to somebody. It doesn't matter how much you read. It doesn't matter how much you listen to podcasts. If your cells don't feel safe, nothing is going to be able to function properly because your nervous system's still going to be out of whack. And so again, we do nervous system work, breath work, grounding, again, not in a woo-woo way. It's very much centered on Jesus because he is the ultimate creator. He's the only healer. And so therefore everything comes back to him. Then from there, you can rebuild physically with nourishment that is actually going to support your hormone repair so that your energy, your cycles, your mood, they can all come back into balance. And then we bring faith into this as well, because again, real healing doesn't happen without inviting God, who created you, into the places that are still aching or very fragile. Okay. So again, right now, if you're like, oh, this sounds kind of like something that I should be thinking about, just know, like, again, nothing is wrong with you. Your body is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So this isn't about fixing you. Okay. It's about helping you feel safe again so that you can show up as the woman and the mother that God has designed you to be. Because when that happens, your sleep improves. But guess what? Your baby's sleep also improves. Your energy comes back. And guess what? You have energy to then keep up with your kids who have so much energy. Your body feels lighter, right? Because you're probably literally going back down to the weight that God created you to be. You finally feel like you again. You're joyful. You can actually create memories, literally, that stay in your brain because your body feels safe enough to prioritize processing those experiences. Okay. And so if any of this made you think like, that's me, like I've been feeling like this, I have a free birth quiz that I would love to have you take. It will help you uncover how your own birth experience might still be affecting you physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It takes like 2 minutes and it's going to give you clarity right away. And so again, if you want that, I'm sure Bernie will share it with you. And you can also just message me on Instagram and I'll be happy to send that to you as well. And so again, if any of this resonated with you, like I would just really encourage you to, explore it a little bit more. Like bring it to God and just ask him to reveal what is it that I'm supposed to be having or understanding from this. Because again, he uses all experiences to bring us back to him, but we have to choose to take that step towards him. And so again, right now the door is totally open. You can go through it and like step into healing. You can step into becoming again the woman that God has created you to be. It's really scary and it can be really, really hard, but ultimately that's what he wants for you. And so again, thank you so much for having me here. And I would love to continue to chat nervous systems and all the things like that with any mom who needs this support.
Thank you so much, Brigid. And just to like cap off everything that you said, because that all made so much sense, and I think it will like really speak to a lot of moms. Is there like one practical tip that you can give to moms, like if they're like, yes, like I feel that, but like I can't even think about like reaching out just yet, like what's something they could just start with that's maybe like small, like an everyday thing?
Yeah, for sure. I love that. So there's quite a bit that you can do. One of the things that I have, actually I'll give you two things. The first one is prayer. Okay, so I wake up before my kids, even if it's just like 10, 15 minutes, and just sit somewhere if you can, and just either like open your Bible, whether that, I love the method of just like randomly opening it and sticking your finger on it and being like, okay, this is, half the time I'm like, what does this even mean? Like, I don't know what this means, but for whatever reason, God needed me to read this today. So read your Bible, say a prayer, like do something. Even if your kids are screaming around you, like our daily rosary looks incredibly chaotic all the time. Even just before this call, it was like we were outside praying and the one kid was like walking on the wall that we have. The other was like throwing a baseball at his brother. Like it was just like so chaotic. But you just have to remember like God is there and he sees that and he sees the intention behind it. And I'm sure that like Mother Mary is just smiling down and like just
For
like
sure.
happy. But like
Yes, definitely.
so that's the biggest one is again like just do it. Just pray. It doesn't have to be pretty. Just do it. One that is really easy to do during the day that's so good for your nervous system is to literally just go outside, and not even to just go outside, but if you can't go outside, say it's too cold, you can also just go and like put your feet up on the wall, like lay down and put your feet up on the wall. The reason that works so well is because it then starts to activate your vagus nervous system, which then will help to switch you from that fight or flight to that rest and digest. And so just doing, again, prayer and like putting your feet up on the wall are going to do wonders for your nervous system. So thank you so much for being here. We're going to go ahead and end the call. If you need anything, reach out to me on Instagram at Brigid.Tebaldi. You know where Bernie is. And so looking forward to chatting with you. All right, everybody have a good rest of your evening. See you later.